Chapter 2, The King of the Castle, circa 1999. The barbecue wasn't ours, it was the O'Malley's. A warped circus a few blocks down the road where Jerry could strut his crown. Jim O'Malley, Jerry's financial advisor, leaned against the patio railing, tie loose, nursing a whiskey, his marriage to Talia a cracked facade they propped up for their 3 boys, Ronan, Tanner, and Bryce. Their home was cracking like expired glue, barely holding a busted frame. Talia was a toxic drunk, pills and gin sloshing in her gut, her eyes glassy as she flipped burgers. Her same shaking hands were the ones that drove us hungover in the carpool lane, weaving through traffic while I gripped the seat, praying we'd make it to school alive. Ronan, the oldest, stood stone-faced by the grill, 13 and already dead behind the eyes, counting down to escape. Tanner, the middle kid, the best friend I've ever had, stretched through the cooler, trying to patch the chaos together like worn duct tape, his laugh forced and thin. Tanner always had a mind of an engineer, but his family was the one thing he couldn't fix. Bryce, the youngest, darted around, 7 and wild, years away from chasing his mom's pill-popping ghost, overdosing on a stranger's dirty carpet, heartbeats from flatlining while we all pretended we didn't see it coming. Their family was fucked up, a splintering mess, but Jerry had to be better, had to outdo them at everything, even if it meant being the neighborhood's most world-class piece of shit, a sick perversion of keeping up with the Joneses where the prize was misery. He was a god there, 6'2", broad as a barn door, ex-NFL linebacker with a Super Bowl ring he'd flash like a loaded gun, charisma oozing off him like grease from the grill. To the guests of the party, he was the king of the castle, sprawled in a lawn chair, beer sweating in his fist, regaling them with gridiron tales. 4th and goal, 2-yard line, I smashed that QB so hard he forgot his mama's name. His laugh was a thunderclap over the hiss of meat and Talia's slurred giggles. The backyard stank of charcoal and disappointment. I was 11, sticky with Kool-Aid, watching him shine. Gold to them, rot to us, while Mom basted ribs with a jaw clenched tight enough to grind bone. Her eyes were hollowed by the nights he spent with Naomi, some Hispanic chick he'd been banging, not his wife but a trophy he'd flaunt. Bailey was invisible, a smudge in the chaos, her knees tucked under the O'Malley's picnic table, flinching at every bellow like it was Jerry's belt snapping. We'd hit the pool earlier, me, Krista, Graham, Bailey, and the O'Malley boys, splashing and laughing, cannonballs off the diving board. Ronan dunked Tanner while Bryce shrieked, "Shark attack!" and gnawed my leg. Krista giggled, shoving Graham, who'd smirk and splash back. For a minute, we were just kids, old enough to taste the parents' mess, but too naive to think it'd stick, the sun glinting off the water like the chlorine could wash it all clean. Then the steak came out, overcooked, a gray lump Jim had grilled wrong, and Jerry speared it with a fork, held it up like a war trophy. The plate hit the concrete next, a cheap ceramic dish shattering across the patio, shards glinting like his eyes, dulled by 15 years of helmet hits, promising something worse than the yarn he'd just spun about pancaking some rookie. "What the hell is this? Dog food?" He roared. His voice was a whip crack that sliced the air. The O'Malley's guests froze mid-bite, their smiles souring as he loomed, a sociopath with a ring and a rage no playbook could tame. This was Jerry's shtick, a bitter sarcasm where no one was laughing except him. His moral compass was a myth, lost somewhere on the turf in the haze of 10,000 helmet-to-helmet hits. He carried the locker room into real life, a world of crude jabs and dominance where boundaries didn't exist. His jokes were cruel, slicing through the backyard's fragile peace. "Talia, you grill like you drive, half in the bag," he'd bark for everyone to hear, her drunken sway faltering as guests shifted, their chuckles forced, eyes darting to the ground. No one dared call him out. He was a hulking beast. His presence was a threat wrapped in charm. His ring was a reminder of his untouchable glory. They laughed, uneasy, while he preened, the star of his own warped sitcom, oblivious to the tension coiling around him. When you're an NFL star, every room is a locker room. Every moment is a chance to flex your ego. He'd sling cruel barbs. "Jim, you let your wife out of the house like that? No wonder your boys are soft." His voice boomed, oblivious to Ronan's clenched jaw or Tanner's strained smile. The guests, neighbors and colleagues, swallowed their discomfort. Their laughter was a nervous reflex, fearing the monster beneath the grin. He'd recount a strip club anecdote, loud enough for kids to hear. This chick had an ass like 2 holiday hams. Mom would inhale sharply, shame flickering in her eyes. Bailey shrank further, her fingers twisting her napkin while Krista glanced at me, her eyes asking what mine couldn't answer. Why does he do this? Graham stared at the pool, jaw tight, his silence an attempt to shield against the humiliation. I felt it too, the knot in my gut, the weight of being his son, expected to laugh, to nod, to play along with a man whose humor was a weapon that carved us smaller with every crude punchline. His lack of a moral compass was a sociopath's disregard for the lines others drew, societal normalities that a typical person could recognize. He didn't see the boundaries between public and private, between crude and cruel, between his ego and our pain. At home, he'd hurl drawers and insults. Here, he hurled jokes, each one a performance of dominance, a reminder we were props in his show. "Garrett, you swim like a girl. Toughen up." The guests' uneasy chuckles echoed as I burned, my sticky hands clenching, hating him and hating myself for not fighting back. He used this perverted humor to elevate him, to shrink everyone around him, to keep us off balance. No one challenged him, not Jim, not Talia, not the neighbors clutching their beers. His size, his status, his NFL halo made him untouchable, a god whose laughter was lewd, poisoning the air. Mom didn't flinch, didn't fight back, never did, because fighting meant more bruises, more blood crusting on her lip, so she knelt, silent, scooping up the pieces with hands that shook just enough to betray her. She was a donkey swallowing glass while Talia swayed, oblivious, and Jim stared into his drink, thinking about mergers and acquisitions. I stood there with my fists balled, Krista tugging my sleeve to sit, Graham glaring into his Coke like he could choke Jerry with it, and Bailey. Bailey was gone, a shadow under the table, her breath a shallow rasp. Jerry pivoted, grinning again, bragging to Jim about Naomi. "Met this chick at a dive bar, Hispanic firecracker, ass like a dream, better than this dump any day." He'd say it loud enough for Mom to hear, her rag pausing mid-wipe, still picking up the dishes he broke while he laughed, still married to her but fucking half the town, Naomi just the loudest notch on his belt. He was unlovable, a core so hollowed by CTE and sociopathy it was a double curse, a pit swallowing anything soft. He'd never love me, never love Krista with her pigtails and pleas, never love Graham with his clenched fists, never love Bailey who'd vanish into corners like she could erase herself. He'd never love Mom, who took his shit with a stubbornness I'd snatch from her veins. He could never love himself either, just the old game tape of his gridiron days, dulled now by the brain smoothie sloshing in his skull, 15 years of concussions turning charm to poison. The neighbors saw the king, the big laugh, big hands, bigger stories, but we lived with the tyrant, the devil who'd smash a plate 1 minute and crow about banging Naomi the next, still Laura's husband, his wedding ring tattooed on his finger, and Mom's too, a shackle she couldn't shake, ink she couldn't remove. The O'Malley family was a mess. Jim and Talia's marriage was a slow bleed. Ronan was stone cold, Tanner was trying to hide it, and Bryce was doomed to walk in Talia's staggering steps. Jerry had to top it, had to be the best at being the worst, a competitive sociopath who'd outshit them all, plate shards and all. Mom's resilience was a faint glow, not a beacon, just a flicker, kneeling there, picking up pieces with a locked jaw. Her silence was a shield we resent her for, because fighting back wasn't an option when the devil's fists were faster than her prayers. Bailey stayed under the table until the stars poked out over Scripps Ranch, her fingers clawing the dirt, a shadow nobody fished out. Not me, not Krista, not Graham, sure as hell not Mom, too busy scrubbing Jerry's mess while Talia slurred and Jim muttered about stocks. We'd laughed in the pool earlier, me and the O'Malley boys wrestling, Krista squealing as Graham flipped her off a floaty, Bailey even cracking a smile when Bryce splashed her. All of us were dumb enough to think the chaos was just noise. Jerry's rants, Talia's stumbles, all of it a storm that'll blow over in our minds. I'd hear Bailey later, a whimper through the wall we shared while Jerry's snores rattled our house with Naomi's ghosts in his breath as Mom's bed stunk of Jerry's betrayal. The barbecue ended with the O'Malley's guests slinking off earnestly, looking me in the eyes, saying, "Great guy, your dad. So cool how he won a Super Bowl." I heard this gut punch my entire childhood, and each time I'd choke on it. People bought the bullshit Jerry was selling. No one questioned the bruises. They didn't ask why I flinched at loud noises. Most people got sucked into the Super Bowl stories. gawking at the 6'2" stature of a man who played pro ball. Jerry left us sifting through the wreckage, shards, burnt meat, his voice still ringing like a bad song we couldn't shake. He was the king, all right, ruling a castle built on our bones, outdoing the O'Malley's fucked up show with his own world-class shitstorm. We were the serfs, scrambling in his shadow. Mom's faint glow was the only thing keeping us from the dark he'd drag us into, a tyrant too broken to love, too alive to quit. The sociopath's spin was my childhood, strangers at barbecues, teachers, even police officers who ignored my bruised arms and my mom's busted lip, all gushing. Man, your dad's Jerry Plummer, NFL legend, that Super Bowl story. How lucky are you? And he's so damn funny. Always got a tail to spin. They'd grin, expecting me to puff up with pride, but each word was a knife, twisting in the gap between their Jerry and ours. He was a master at it, weaving a mask so bright it blinded everyone but us. To the world, he was the life of the party, a hero with a ring and a laugh that could fill a stadium. At home, we got the real Jerry, the one who'd rip out every drawer from our dressers and pour out the contents onto our bedroom floors, spitting venom, leaving us to clean up the mess. Now clean your fucking room, you ungrateful shit. How does a kid with a small, trembling heart, hammering like it's going to burst, make sense of that? A towering hurricane of a man tearing your world apart, scattering your socks and dreams like trash, then pinning it all on you, calling you a lazy slob, like you begged for this chaos. I was maybe 10, knees pressed into the carpet, picking up my crumpled t-shirts and that one stupid notebook filled with the rhymes, the one I hid under my socks, praying he wouldn't find it. My hands shook so bad I dropped everything I tried to pick up, each clatter making me flinch, waiting for his boots to thunder back down the hallway. His voice still echoed in my head. Ungrateful shit, ungrateful shit. Like I'd failed some test I didn't know I was taking. I wanted to scream, "You did this! This isn't my fault!" But my throat was locked, my chest so tight it felt like I was drowning. If I cried, he'd mock me. If I fought, he'd hit harder. So I just kept picking up the mess, piece by piece, while my insides churned with shame and something worse. I hated him. I hated myself. I hated the whole damn world that thought he was a saint. Outside, he'd be tossing back drinks with neighbors, his laugh booming like he hadn't just torn our house to shreds. Mom would be there, forcing a smile, pretending she didn't know about the women he fucked behind her back. That wedding ring on his finger was a prop, costume jewelry. He scoffed at the vows attached to that circular metal, far more proud of his Super Bowl ring with its diamond Lombardi trophies. I'd see my mom's eyes, empty, darting away when I looked too long, and I'd wonder if she blamed me too. I was just a kid, but I felt the weight of their broken marriage, the way his cheating and his rages bled into every corner of our lives. I'd lie awake at night, hearing Jerry scream at her, or worse, the silence when she gave up. And I'd think, maybe if I was better, quieter, cleaner, he'd stop. Maybe it was my fault. But how do you fix a man who thrives on breaking you? Every time I cleaned that mess, the socks, pencils, that notebook I'd never dared write in again, every time I felt smaller, like I was disappearing, his words stuck. Lazy, slob, ungrateful. They'd creep into my head at school, when I'd freeze during a test, or at night when I'd stare at the ceiling, heart racing for no reason. I'd jump at every loud noise, every raised voice, waiting for the next storm. Even now, decades later, a slammed door or a messy room can send me spiraling like I'm back there, 10 years old, on my knees trying to make it right, trying to make my family right. I didn't know it then, but that's what trauma does. It's not just the moment when the drawers are crashing and his spit is hitting my face. It's the way it burrows in and rewires you. I'd see him charm strangers, big smile and warmth, and I'd burn in rage because no one saw us. No one saw the bruises, the fear, the way I'd hold my breath when his car pulled into the driveway. I wanted to rip off that mask, scream to the world, "Jerry is a monster. How can you believe his lies?" But who would believe a kid? Especially the kid of an NFL hero, a man that so many people looked up to. So I swallowed it, and it festered. The shame, the fear, the gnawing sense that I was nothing, that I'd always be nothing. Some nights, I'd hide in my head, imagining I could run, be someone else, end up somewhere safe. I'd clutch my pillow and whisper to it like it could save me. It didn't, but it was something to hold on to. Mom's resilience kept the fire going, those tiny sparks of me refusing to die. I didn't know those sparks were hope, but they kept me going, even when I thought I'd break. People saw Jerry as some untouchable god, But we lived with the real Jerry, the one who'd leave Mom's heart and body broken, eyes bruised with more than just tears. Living with a sociopath like him was like drowning in a funhouse mirror where everyone saw a king, but we were trapped with the monster. His charm was a seesaw that kept us questioning our own reality, wondering if we were the crazy ones for seeing the truth. The weight of his lies pressed on us, heavy as his squat rack, making us feel like intake patients in our own lives. Bailey hid under tables, Krista's giggles faded into flinches, Graham's anger simmered like a bomb ready to explode. I'd ball my fists, hating how small I felt. Jerry's manipulation wasn't about fooling the neighbors. It was about breaking us, keeping us too tangled in his web to trust our own hearts. We'd second guess every moment. Those pool days splashing with the O'Malley kids, were they real or just another scene he'd staged to look like the perfect dad? The constant betrayal chewed us raw, knowing he could smile for the crowd while our world crumbled. It was a loneliness that stuck, a feeling that no one would ever believe us, and they didn't, because his stories were louder than our screams, his fake love brighter than our pain. Worst of all, living with Jerry made us doubt love itself, like it was a trick we'd never deserve. Mom's silence, her stubborn glow, was all we had, but even that felt like a betrayal sometimes. Her staying with him was a paradox we couldn't solve. We learned early that love could be a lie, a performance, like Jerry's arm around Mom at the barbecue, his voice booming with fake warmth while her hands shook. It left us scarred, wary, always waiting for the next mask to slip. We were kids, but we grew up knowing the world would cheer for a devil if he told a good enough story, and that truth would haunt us long after his snores faded, leaving us to pick up the pieces of a childhood built on his deceit, our bones still aching from the weight of his crown.